Welcome back, everyone, to the 5 p.m. podcast. I'm Tina, and as always, I'm here with Dan, our resident political guru.
Hey, Tina, and hello to all our listeners. Ready for another deep dive into the world of politics? Today's topic. It's a bit of a roller coaster.
It really is. We're talking about the 25% U.S. tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. And, more specifically, how this whole thing is playing out during the negotiation pause between Trudeau and Trump.
Right, so picture this. Canada's forestry sector, a $35 times billion times industry, is basically in limbo right now. And this proposed tariff, it's threatening a $14 billion trade relationship. That's huge.
It is. And it's not just about the money, although that's obviously a big part of it. It's about jobs, it's about the housing market, it's about people's lives, really.
Exactly. And it's kind of fascinating, historically speaking. We're not talking about something new here. This is part of a century-old, I guess you'd call it the lumber wars, between the U.S. and Canada. But this time, there are some modern twists things, like cross-border climate agreements and Indigenous forestry rights.
Oh, those are good points. It's not just about trade anymore, is it? It's all interconnected. Let's talk about the softwood lumber itself. Can you give our listeners a quick explainer on what exactly it times and why these tariffs even exist?
Sure thing. So, softwood lumber comes from coniferous trees. Think pine, spruce, fir. It's the main stuff used in building houses, framing, that kind of thing. Hardwood, on the other hand, is typically used for furniture, things where looks matter more. The tariffs. They're basically taxes on this imported softwood, supposedly to protect the American lumber industry.
Okay, so it's protectionism, but what does that times actually mean for, say, someone looking to buy a house in the U.S.?
Well, it means higher prices. Some estimates suggest that this tariff could increase the price of a new home by anywhere from $9,000 to $25,000. 1-4. That's a asterisk lot times of money. And Dr. Rajan Parajuli, a forest economist at NC State, pointed out that these tariffs create these market distortions. Basically, U.S. consumers are paying more, while the producers see the gains.
So it benefits the American lumber companies, but hurts American homebuyers. Ouch. And what about Canada in all of this? I imagine they're not too happy.
Not thrilled, to put it mildly. Derek Nighbor, the president of the Forest Products Association of Canada, said this whole thing undermines competitiveness, especially against, get this, European subsidized biofuels. 4. It's a complicated web.
It really is. And it is not just Canada. I was reading that Heidi Brock, the CEO of the American Forest and Paper Association, said that tariffs even hurt American mills that rely on Canadian kraft pulp. Because of integrated supply chain.
See, that's what makes this so complex. It's not just a simple us versus them situation. Supply chains are so interconnected these days. Historically, there times have been agreements, like the 2006 Softwood Lumber Agreement, that one had export taxes when lumber prices dropped below a certain level.
Right, a kind of safety net. So are we just going to see a repeat of that kind of agreement? Or is something else on the table?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's talk of looking for alternative suppliers, Germany and Sweden, for instance. But, and this is a big but, they can't supply the same volume as Canada. And their prices are, on average, about 29% higher.
So even if the U.S. finds other sources, it could still mean higher costs for consumers. It seems like there are no easy answers here.
No, there aren't. And the numbers are pretty stark. Canada supplies over 65% of U.S. softwood lumber needs. That's around 28 million cubic meters per year. And just historically speaking, we have seen price ranges between $330 to $1,500. And that is a huge gap.
Wow, it's like a roller coaster ride for anyone in the construction industry.
And think about this. The proposed tariff, some estimates are showing an immediate $8 million per day times cost increase, and potential for 28,000 job losses within the first 6 months. That's a pretty significant impact.
It definitely is. And it's not just an economic issue either. We've got to consider the ethical and societal impacts too. Like Indigenous forestry rights in Canada, over 43% of BC First Nations get income from forestry tenures, and this uncertainty puts that at risk. 4.
That's a really important point, Tina. And then there's the whole issue of climate policy. You've got this push for carbon-negative timber construction, and then you throw these trade actions into the mix. It just creates a lot of friction.
It's a balancing act, that's for sure. So, looking ahead, what are some potential solutions, or at least ways to mitigate the damage?
Well, there's always the possibility of a new trade agreement, something that finds a better balance. And this is where it gets interesting. There are these new digital tracking solutions, like blockchain for timber verification. It could make things more transparent and give an advantage to exporters who are really committed to sustainability.
Blockchain in the lumber industry? I love it. It's like technology coming to the rescue, potentially.
Exactly. It could change the game, making trade disputes less likely, because everything is tracked and verifiable. It's a really cool development.
This has been incredibly insightful, Dan. Thanks for breaking it all down for us. It's clear that the U.S. Canada lumber situation is a complex one, with far-reaching consequences. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this.
Absolutely, Tina. And thanks to all our listeners for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode of the 5 p.m. podcast.